Welcome back to this episode of Off Hours with Bourbon Lens. This is Jake along with Jake, and today we are glad to be joined by Chef Julian Medina, restaurateur in the Northeast and all things culinary expert. So Julian, thank you for joining this episode of Off Hours with Bourbon Lens.
Thank you for having me both. It's always a pleasure to be with you guys.
Well, we truly appreciate it. I know Jake and I both have large stomachs and attempt to cook in our free time. And so, just Chef, if you don't mind, just giving us a little bit of your background and how you got into cooking and opening up restaurants.
Yeah, well, everything started when, I was a teenager and like all of them, we didn't know what to do with ourselves and our lives. So I started kind of cooking back in Mexico for my friends and family when I was like 16, 17 years old. So when I finished, school and didn't know what to do with myself and going to college and what I wanted to study and stuff, I decided to get into a restaurant as a consultant, kind of like learning if I wanted to like the business and cooking and all that. So that being said, I started cooking when I was 17, 18 years old back in Mexico, helping in a restaurant as an intern. And then after that, I basically one of the cooks didn't show up. The chef came in. It was a really fancy French restaurant called La Celebrites back in Mexico City. It doesn't exist anymore. And so the chef told me, hey, this cook didn't show up. You want to take the position? And I said, yes. And since then, everything started just like working my way until on the culinary world, being a cook, being a chef. And then after a few years, I moved here to New York to gain more experience, increase my resume, come to school at the French Culinary Institute. So I study and work at the same time, not knowing a lot of Mexican food, even though I'm from Mexico, but my background of training was French back in Mexico and also here in New York. So it was when I worked for Richard Sandoval that he wanted to open an upscale Mexican restaurant called Maya that is still there to the date. And he asked me to be his sous chef. So I took that position. And then I became the chef de cuisine of that restaurant that I worked for a while. And then I passed through other restaurants like Sushi Samba, Socolo. I helped also Richard open Pampano and a few other restaurants until I decided that it was time for me to open my first restaurant, that it was Toloache on Midtown on 50th between 8th and Broadway. 16 years ago, actually, it's going to be there this year, 16 years. And then everything started there. And, from there, I keep opening more restaurants to the date. Yeah.
Very cool.
That's awesome.
You're on Iron Chef, right? Years ago?
Yes. I was, I believe, I don't even remember the year, but it was, I believe it was like 7 years ago. Yeah, they invited me over. It was a great experience to be there. It was just like the old version of Iron Chef. It was not the new version. I think they keep changing it, but it was so much fun. But we had a good time. It was the chocolate battle.
Oh wow!
Mexican chocolate.
There we go.
So it was fun.
Well, I was reading an article like Iron Chef, like what you see on TV is not really what happens, like actually, like during the cooking experience, because you all have to cook for so long to prepare the food for the judges. So I know it's a grueling day of cooking.
It is. Well, people said that it's not, but it is. I can spell it out for you a little bit. There is they give you 3 options before you get into the show, 3 different ingredients that they could be picked the day off, exactly basically live. Well, it's tape or it's live. You definitely have 1 hour to cook. Yes, you do have 1 hour. You have the rules are for both contenders. So I knew that it was either three of the ingredients. It was Mexican chocolate, it was cilantro, or it was masa. So the three, it was one to pick. So they pick it right in the moment. So then you do have an hour. So basically everything happens for that, in that hour. And then after that, you finish the hour, you complete, I believe it was just back in the day, 5 dishes. And then after that hour is done, then you plate individually for the judges. So the dishes are nice and hot or cold or whatever you want to make it. So you depends of if the contestant start first or the Iron Chef. In my case, I went first, and then he got afterwards. But it's a fair and square battle. I think the more advantage is for them because they know the kitchen. They've been cooking there. They can pick if the contestant goes first or they can go first. So but it's fair and square.
No, it's pretty cool to watch those and execution. I don't know about you, Jake, but I've always wondered what makes French culinary expertise kind of rise to the top. It seems like classically French trained chefs are the cream of the crop most of the time. So what makes French culinary cuisine so impactful to the world?
I think it's just through in the past, French cooking has always been the mecca of the culinary world because the French train it's very based on ability and techniques and the mother of the sauces are most of them are French. So I mean, back in the day, French training it was just the best. Now these days, a lot more of Spanish food. It's just unbelievable. I mean, from Spain, a lot of other chefs that they come up changing the culinary world, like Ferran Adrià and all that, back in the day too, because it's just it seems like everything has their momentum.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's all the boys from Copenhagen and stuff. Very Nordic, very different approach of cooking.
Mm-hmm.
Using a lot of vegetables and ingredients that nobody use.
Yeah.
I mean, these days, I would say that the techniques for cooking vegetables and being on that vegetarian world is just what is the top right now. And you can see in the city just having restaurants that they have 3 Michelin stars, doing only vegetables.
Yeah.
Because the technique could be so much more complicated and I would say at a point difficult to cook, bringing vegetables to the limit, and then they do it very well, 11 Madison, for example. So I mean, but I mean, that being said, everything comes from literally the techniques and a lot of the techniques and the cooking that it's French.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of Italian, even the Mexican. I use a lot of my techniques are that French, Mexican, using Mexican ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
With some of the sauces, I like to to throw a lot of Asian, Japanese products there because I know how to use them, and I work at Sushi Salmon. I have the ability just to kind of mix Mexican and Japanese a lot ingredients. So yeah, I mean it's just based, I guess, on your experience. Now these days the new chefs are ridiculous, insane. They come up with such a different things and techniques. That is just, yeah, and even using, physics too. So
Yeah.
chemical things. So a lot of powders and stuff. So it's just, I mean, you don't even have to be a chef. You could be a physic just to come up with things, new things that, is just exciting for the culinary world.
Oh, for sure. I watch enough of the cooking shows to know, like, they did a whole show on like new wave cooking and like different powders and different, like, all types of, vacuum sealers to quick marinades. I'm like, man, I need that because I'm such a terrible marinator. Like, I want to marinate everything because it makes it taste so much better. And then I'm like, last second, I'm like, oh, I need to squeeze this lemon into this bag and let this chicken sit for a couple hours.
Everything needs lemon.
Apparently I looked at every like grilled chicken breast. Like, I was looking for like a really good grilled chicken breast recipe the other day for dinner, and it was like everything called for a fresh lemon. And I'm like, I don't buy fresh lemons. Like, that's not something I keep in my house. So now my wife's like, why do you have 5 fresh lemons? I'm like, because every grilled chicken recipe calls for fresh lemon juice.
Honey, why are you planting a lemon tree? Like, well,
I'm going to see if lemon trees can grow in Kentucky. First of all, experiment.
Exactly.
Second of all, because I need them for every chicken recipe, apparently.
Yeah. Julian, I got a question for you. As before we hopped on here, you were talking about, you've got, roughly 5-6 different restaurants that you've launched now, and a handful more that's, are in the process. How has your day-to-day changed from that first restaurant that you're spending all of your time at, and you're cooking at, and you're the head chef and sort of overseeing everything, to now having multiple spots that's, that you have to be a part of? Do you spend more time at one over the other? Do you kind of have the playbook or the strategy now with the team that, that they can operate without, you as the face being there, kind of, and how did you get to that point to know that, like, I'm ready to go kind of oversee everything versus just being in the kitchen, day to day?
Yeah, it's been it's just been such a journey to doing that, and that's like an amazing question, because people think that that just like when you expand that, you're not able to spend as much as time in each restaurant, which is sometimes is true, sometimes it's not. I don't get that crazy. I think now it's just more of a managerial, job situation that I'm in into it. I go not to every restaurant day to day, but I try to visit at least 3 restaurants a day. Where you have I have an executive chef in each restaurant and a manager, a GM, that they are the bones of the structure of the restaurant, of each restaurant that I have. So that's how we kind of go through things. I like to be involved in every decision, and that being said, also in the cooking. So I talk to my executive chefs like on a daily basis, and work with them closely and try to come up with ideas for either menu changes or special menus for like Mexican holidays, Cinco de Mayo, Mexican Independence Day, Day of Dead, you name it. So we try to I also get involved a lot, my chefs and my managers, because I believe that you doing what you do every day can be tedious, and especially in cooking. So I give them the opportunity to come up with special dishes, like weekly special dishes that they can put out in the restaurant, and then we can sell it. They're very I involve them a lot just to come up with different menus, ideas, and stuff. So and my philosophy is just, this is a teamwork. Without all my employees and the people behind the restaurant, starting from the dishwasher to the GM, I won't be able to have what we have right now. I'm always grateful for them, and always when I coming into each restaurant, I make sure that I say hi to every individual and each one of them. And I'll make sure that I just go and shake hands with or do a fist bump with most of all of the employees. So I'm very involved into that. I believe teamwork, it's just for the best. And then, knowing each individual employee that sometimes is hard, we can do. So, so that's what I'm trying to accomplish in a daily basis in the restaurants.
So with that being said, like being in on every decision, do you get into the cocktail program as well at your restaurants?
Yeah, I have my input into the cocktails and stuff. When we opened Toloache 16 years ago, I was able to come work closely with the bartenders and the mixologists. And to the date, I like that. I like to create also flavors, profiles, and ideas with them. So yes, to the question is yes, I'll get involved into that too.
So just curious, from with your heritage, did you lean towards tequila as a spirit, or did you kind of pick up, as you grew, opportunities into all spirits and figuring out how those flavors would work with your food that you all were curating at, your very first restaurant onto, the restaurants you have now? Like, is there a spirit that you lean towards?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, coming from Mexico, tequila is dear to my heart. Mezcal, it's also another spirit that has just been up and coming, as well as and now these days Sotol, which is it's agave. It's in the agave family, tequila and mezcal as well. Like that kind of agave is different types of agave that is not necessarily made in Oaxaca, but there is other states that regulate that. So tequila is such a popular spirit that a lot of the people and even men, women just love to drink these days. And I think it's just the emphasis on that is just being or the growing, and tequila is just being ridiculous. When we thought that tequila was almost done 10 years ago, it just started like this humongous monster, and now to this days, all the stars, trying to to have even to have their own brand,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like everybody wants a tequila. I'm off hours tequila, Jake.
Not quite. Honestly, I did think about it for a little bit, but it was like maybe I should just stay in my lane on this one and just stick with whiskey. But you never know. We've actually talked to some different tequila brands about potentially sending our used barrels down and having them age their tequila in those barrels to do like a reposado or a añejo. That way we could kind of get the best of what we want out of it versus having to do everything under one roof or by ourselves. But yeah, I think Julian, with the tequila boom continuing to rise, it's interesting now because I'm starting to see more and more people ask questions about tequila, and just I don't know if it's because there's so many of them out there or just because there's so much more awareness, but like asking about if there's additives and sort of what the process is. And I think, people are starting to kind of see through some of the smoke and mirrors of what, some of these brands have put up versus like really truly creating a really clean product and no additives and having something that's really, tastes really good as well without having to add all the extra stuff in the mix too. So I'm hoping that it'll continue to trend more in that direction, where you're getting something that's kind of like bourbon, where there's no additives or there's nothing unnatural to it to a certain extent.
Totally, I agree 100% with you. just because, the regulations back in Mexico and also here in the States are about the same about the tequila, so they can add additives to a spirit that it will call tequila. For me, that's not even a tequila. The ones with additives and stuff, virtually that's the case. But yet I focus on drinking, the 100% agave, no additives, like trying to be not as an organic as possible, but it just, when you don't add additives and stuff, and I've been in a lot of distilleries in Mexico, seeing what they do and what they don't. It's just like that's when notice what exactly it's a good tequila in the brand, and obviously you can taste it. I like to drink. Depends of like where is in the season. The Blanco Cristalinos with a nice cube, reposados, extrañejos, you name it. That's my choice of.
No discrimination in your tequila.
Right.
Any age, we're good. Yeah.
Exactly. But I think once you kind of live and you drink from vodka to whiskey to bourbon to whatever you name it, you kind of pick and choose what's your favorite spirit. And that's how it is. Back in the day, even Herradura used to make me a barrel only for me.
Oh,
basically, it was a double barrel reposado, which you were saying about the barrels. So basically, they come up with this program. It's a reposado that they put it. I believe it was like 11 months into whiskey or bourbon barrel that it will come, and then to finish the last thing that it was just called double barrel reposado. It was you make they put it in a new barrel, in a brand new barrel. So they said that it will change and stop the aging process of it. So and it was just basically made for me, and it was just a really fun experience to have. I went down there to Jalisco, to see the process and stuff, and it was a great addition to our menu. They stopped doing it, so but that was great about the aging of the barrels and stuff.
Very cool. Yeah, I think we're starting to see more people or more brands that are trying to, collaborate or do, things like this where, whether it's whiskey and tequila or, we're seeing some gin brands do some stuff where it's kind of almost like a way to try it out a little bit and see, what you've got before kind of going all in on a new product and creating it yourself. But really cool with Herradura. And, with that, kind of getting into more of like your sort of your off hours, your downtime, do you, being a chef for a living, do you enjoy going home and cooking for yourself and making a drink and kind of relaxing a bit? Or is it more or less like, hey, I've done this, I've been on my feet all day, I've been around the restaurant and I'm just looking to relax and kind of what's that look like?
Yeah, I totally, you need a downtime, of course. My downtime, sorry, it's I relax, whether I need tequila, that I enjoy doing tastings and, drinking new margaritas and stuff and new cocktails that the bartenders, mixologists make for me for the menus and stuff. I now that the summer is approaching, I love a nice Cristalino with a nice ice cube on it and just sip it. That's my drink of choice. I enjoy doing that a lot.
Here's even the better question. What's your favorite booze forward food to make? Is it a dessert? Is it a savory? Because like I was watching Guy's Grocery Games and he made a turkey vodka sandwich or turkey tequila sandwich that I thought was very interesting. So I'm interested to, hear what your thoughts are on how you incorporate like spirits and food, because I would like to do that more because I have a lot of bourbon that could be repurposed for cooking.
Right. Um, I mean, just to cook also with food and having a pairing, it's just so versatile. You can do. I actually have done a lot of taco macase tastings kind of thing, and I pair it with like cocktails. Either it will be tequila base or mezcal, and then just have also a neat tequila pairing with a taco. That being said, it's just not a taco that is it's not just your typical taco, but it's just made out of like a lot more things to embrace like the flavor of the tortilla, and it just goes well to pairing with like a mezcal, for example, or a tequila. For example, I have done one of the tacos that it was just more mind blowing for everyone. It was just it was in the summer, and then I'm very close here to the farms in Long Island, so carrots was they're like super different and sweet and very tasty here. So I made a three-way carrot taco, which it was made out of basically a carrot juice tortilla. We just made a juice in a tortilla. So we infused the corn, the masa, with carrot juice. Then we put a roasted carrot puree, roasted carrots, and like a almond salsa matcha on top with some the carrot tops as a garnish on top. So that was one of the really well done tacos that we made, and I paired that with a Cristalino Blanco. Well, like Cristalino, it's reposado with Blanco. So I think that was one of the best pairings that I have ever done with it. I mean, you can name what you want to do with it, what kind of food you want to pair it with it. I mean, it's just endless the amount of dishes that you can pair with either tequila, wine, whiskey, bourbon, you name it.
Couldn't agree more. And I love a good taco. I mean, that's East Coast, West Coast, Central Central United States. Like everyone loves a good taco, but this can be the deciding factor. Like, is it corn tortilla or flour tortilla that you go with, Julian?
Usually for a taco, I mean, you can use both. But I use in the restaurants more corn. We do use flour for a few things because you just grow up with. I grew up with my dad just making just a simple cheese quesadilla for like late supper, dinner, whatever. Back in Mexico, they just like for example, my dad doesn't like flour tortillas. He uses, he only does corn because he says like it's just heavy to him. But I like to to make a quesadilla with flour. I think it's just the great. But for a taco we use corn a lot more. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I I love food, so it's like I want to learn how to make my own like corn tortillas. I feel like I watch them on TV. It doesn't look extremely hard, but it seems extremely tedious.
It's not easy to make corn tortillas.
Damn it!
Once you're gonna make five, you can make 50.
Okay, so I need to get 5 right, and then I can go from there. All right, done.
It's a practice,
you can scale it. Yeah,
make perfection with the tortillas.
Done, Julian. You're going to be getting a bunch of pictures from me and being like, "Did I do this right?" And you're going to be like, "No, restart." So be ready. Be ready for some emails.
Next time we can do a Zoom class of making tortillas.
Oh, hey, I'm in. Sign me up, Jake. We need to. That's a sponsored Zoom call if I've ever heard one. a bourbon pairing and some homemade tortillas. Sounds great. Yeah.
Yum. Perfect.
So Julian, obviously restauranting and being a restaurateur takes up a lot of your time. Like when you're not, thinking about menus and thinking about, the next restaurant that you're going to create, what do you do in your free time?
That's a great question. I run. I've been running a lot lately. I've been running half marathons, like their M&Ms. I run the New York City Marathon last year. That was my first marathon, and I'm hoping to run it this year again. So I do that, and I like also to drink tequila.
Hey, man, a few things: run marathons, drink tequila. I like it. Keep it simple.
And spend time with my 15-year-old daughter Olivia. Also, it's fun to spend time with her. I travel a lot with her. We have a blast now that she's getting older, and she loves to travel also with me, and we have fun together.
So what's it like to think about having your 15-year-old daughter drive a car?
I've been actually teaching her how to drive because I think that's very important. When I was back in Mexico, everybody drives, so I learned how to drive when I was 15. So I was like, you need to start learning how to drive. So I've been taking her out around here in Long Island just for her to just drive around the block and parking lots and stuff. So little by little, so she gets comfortable. I think that's very important. But been talking to other people, and they're like, "What? My 15-year-old cannot stop just banging into walls and drive a car?"
Yeah, they're playing bumper cars with their life, and you're out there like, "Hey, these are practical things you need to learn how to do is steer a car." Right. Man, you said the like going to the grocery store and driving around. Like I can remember that. Like my dad being like, "Hey, you're 15. We need to go up to the local, like there's a Dick's Sporting Goods right up the street from the house." He's like, "We're going to Dick's. You're going to drive for 15 minutes and then you're done. But we're going to practice in the parking lot. You're going to learn how to park a car. You're going to learn how to reverse park a car. And then we're going home for the day." And like, I would just get yelled at and being like, "What are you doing, you idiot?" But now I know how to back into a parking spot, and I know how to pull into a parking spot correctly. So I mean, like, beat that one into my head. There's nothing like a good parking lot to practice driving, because that's where people just lose their wits. I mean, like normally on the road you're fine. Parking lots, people just drive 50 miles per hour and 15 mile per hour speed zones all the time.
Yep. I agree. No one's paying attention half the time, or you got.
I agree with you 100%. Back in Mexico, the first thing that my dad taught me how to drive was a stick shift, and where my parents live is just in a hill. So it's like, okay, stop in the middle and then go. So it was just that and the parking. That's so super necessary.
Oh man. Your dad is so brutal for putting you on a hill and then saying, "Start your stick shift car." That's mean.
Yeah, I feel sorry for that clutch. How many clutches did you burn up before?
No, well, thanks to that, I know how to drive stick shift like nothing. So even though there's non-stick shift cars anymore anywhere. So, but yeah, I guess it's handy if they need it.
That's funny.
Definitely. Does your daughter have the same, affinity for food and the culinary side of things as you do?
She loves, to eat and to cook, but not to go into the business. I would say.
Yeah. She's like, "How about you just cook for me and I'll taste test it."
I mean, I'm in.
It's my girl.
If you ever need a taste tester, I know one in Louisville, Kentucky that will be on a direct flight. Yeah, that's one of the few direct flights we have right to New York. I'm happy to eat food anytime. I don't care how weird it is either at this point. Like I was in Wyoming last week. Julian, I'm going to ask you if you ever had Rocky Mountain oysters.
Oh, no, I never had
Yeah, it's
those.
a special breed of. I had a lot of beverages to eat that. Jake, I'll ask you: have you had Rocky Mountain oysters?
I have actually, but I was like probably 7 or 8 years old, I think, when it happened. And my dad had pulled one over on me and told me it didn't tell me what it was until after I ate it. And it was kind of like, oh, they had fried them
Oh
up and
yeah,
everything. And yeah, so I was like, oh, this isn't too bad. And then he told me, and I was like, I think I'm gonna throw up.
yep.
The first and the last time
Yeah,
I
it
ever
was
had
it was
one.
one of those things. I was with a brand, and we had been drinking whiskey all day, and they were like, "We'll see who the true fans of the brand are." And the owner of the company like orders them and passes them around, and like four people skip them. He's like, "Y'all aren't invited on the next media trip."
You earned your slot for the
Yep,
next one,
yep,
huh?
I did.
There we
So
go.
we've covered a lot of ground, Julian. So you covered on running. Running is a very difficult mental thing to do. But like, what's your best advice about running? Like, you're such a busy individual with all these restaurants and competing priorities. Like, how do you shut down and go for a run like that? Because that's time consuming.
Yeah, yeah, it is very time consuming. I think, I always been some sort of doing any kind of sports back in Mexico when I was a kid growing. I run triathlons and stuff, and then I stopped doing what it made me feel good. I think doing any kind of sports or even running, it's just a great for the body, for the mindset, for to accomplish different goals, in life. I think we all like to have fun. We all like to have a few drinks and have fun with it. But also, I think mentally, I think it's and especially the work that I do, it's just very drained, and in the body too, because just either cooking or spending a lot of time, most of my time walking around and being on my on my feet is just it's not the easiest. A few years back, I started like running. Nobody likes running at the beginning. I mean, let's be honest. There's a lot of people that hate running, and I don't blame them. It was just hard for me too. I mean, even though I was a kid and I run triathlons, I know how to swim well, and I was always very competitive about it. Um, Now that I'm running, it's also mental. You like to take care. I like to take care of my body now. Just going for a run is just more therapeutical for me than anything else. Um, you know, my mind gets into I think in different stuff, not about work necessarily, but like you see beautiful nature, and I like to run in the park in the city or out here in Long Island. It's just a mental, like such a mental relief, and also, for your soul, you feel like really different. I mean, now that I just have a lot more of runner friends that you can share all those thoughts with, it's just so much easier to understand than I've like people that don't run and they're like, oh yeah, you're crazy, by running. So I mean, I enjoy it now. I mean, obviously at the beginning it's very hard. Once you start going into like any races and getting medals and just running with like thousands of other people, it's one on one. It's not like perhaps to play soccer or like basketball that you play, but you're with a team, and with this is just is an individual effort and an individual goal that you have. And I think that has changed my life. I mean, completely. To be honest with you.
No, I think it's great.
Yeah, I think more and more, like you said, as from a therapeutic side, from almost like a mental standpoint, obviously, Jake, you mentioned the time it takes to go run, 13 miles or so. And, that's a lot of time to think about, what's going on in life. And the physical side of things is one thing, and the advantages and the benefits of it all. But, I think that the more I talk to people who are, long distance runners, it is less about any of the physical attributes and sort of what you get out of that way, and more about that mental state in the, the emotional aspect of running, and just, being therapeutic. And, people I know that would say, look, I could be having a terrible day. I'll go for a run and I come home and I'm in a much better mood, and everything just slows down, and you just feel like, okay, that was enough to, kind of get your stuff in order and continue on with the day, and hopefully in a better spot.
That's totally 100. I agree 100% with you. And not only the time to just to go for a race, the time that it takes for training, and it's draining at a point, but it's just so satisfying that when you just accomplish your goal, and all those days of training that I always tell people, you think that I like to wake up at 6, 7 in the morning and go for like an hour jog in the park? Sometimes I'm not in the mood, but those are the best days that I have, because I accomplished that, and it's like it puts me in such a better mood already to start my day with that.
Yeah. So Julian, I think that makes a ton of sense, and Jake, I think that point is so valid. I think we've covered a lot of ground, and I'd love to ask this one last question that we ask all of our guests, Julian. It's this: how do you celebrate those moments in between? Like, how do you literally just kind of shut your brain off with all the stuff that you have on your plate? Because if anyone can do it, it's probably you, because you got a lot happening in your life.
Sometimes it's not easy. I like to, as I said, running, going for a drive, spend time with my daughter, just watch a nice, funny show on TV, eat popcorn with my daughter, sit in the couch. I think those are the times where I just kind of decompress and distress as much as I can. I'm not trying not to take life too serious, because at the end, we all trying to survive and live day by day, and just not worry about the future. Just worry about what you have in front.
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense.
I like that.
And I think a lot of times we take ourselves way too seriously, and life gets more difficult because we put a ton of pressure on ourselves. So I think that's great advice. Well, Julian, I really appreciate you joining Jake and I today to just talk a little bit about life, talk a little bit about your restaurants and your story. And we truly appreciate it. And best of luck on the restaurant opening that's happening here very soon. I can't wait to get to New York to try some Julian Medina restaurants. I don't know about you, Jake.
Yeah, I'm going to be there soon, hopefully. So I will make sure to give Julian a heads up, and we're going to have the full buffet.
Yeah, definitely. Well, if you are in New York or in the surrounding areas, make sure you're looking up Chef Julian Medina restaurants. Go enjoy them. I'll let Chef again one last time tell you what restaurants are on the table there in New York. So Chef, take it away for what restaurants people could go and enjoy while they're in New York.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it, and you guys can come anytime. So you can come. You can visit actually my website is chefmedina.com. You can see all the restaurants there. If you log in, you can see actually part of the battle of the Iron Chef, as well as visit all my restaurants: Toloache, Tacuba, Copelia, La Chula, El Fish, and some more to come.
Well, we truly appreciate it. Thank you again for joining us. As always, everyone, thank you for listening to this episode of Off Hours with Bourbon Lens. You can check out more about Off Hours at Drink Off Hours. If you want to know more about Bourbon Lens, go to @Bourbon Lens. Last but not least, we truly appreciate it if you go to your favorite podcast listening app, give us a 5-star review, as well as subscribe to the latest episode. And until next time, cheers.